I owe you a huge apology. I have let the side down and I have been neglectful and remiss. We are most of the way through March and most of the way through Dewithon, and I haven't mentioned a single Welsh book on this channel in ages, so it's time to remedy that. Dewithon, if you're not familiar, is a month-long readathon where we read all of the books from Wales, including Wales, set in Wales with a vague Welsh reference. Like all good Welsh myths, the origins of it are slightly hazy. So I think it started on a blog. That person's now handed it over to somebody else, much like Welsh folk tales are handed down over time. So I'll make sure to link the people that are running that over on the blogging space in the description if you want to know more. But basically it's an opportunity in March, because it's St. David's Day on the 1st of March, in March, to read books associated with Wales and celebrate all that is Welsh in literature. I have actually been reading some Welsh books, and I'd really like to tell you about them, and I'd really like to read a couple more this weekend before I dive into my women's prize reading, so I thought we could do that together. But first, I'm off to the gym.
These days are running slow. Sunsets and shores far from home. Headlights are shining on the sea. No place on earth I'd rather be. And I could try to just fall.
God, look how rosy I'm looking. That was tough this morning. We worked bloody hard. I'm still catching my breath. But I have a peach and honey tea whilst I settle down and do a bit of reading before I go and jump in the shower. But before I do that, I wanted to tell you about one of the books that I've already read this month, and that is The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters. I'm being a bit candid here, hang on. Is that better? It's The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters. Now, I have a confession to make. Until this month, I'd never read any Sarah Waters. I know. So obviously had to remedy that, because I can't claim to be somebody who champions and seeks out Welsh literature and not read Sarah Waters. And I'm pleased to say I thought this was phenomenal. It's set in the 1920s and it's about a woman and her mother who have a bit of extra space in their house, and so they invite lodgers to come and join them. And a couple comes and becomes their titular paying guests. A connection develops between the daughter of the landlady and the married woman. She's in a sort of somewhat unhappy marriage. And that's the kind of premise of the book. I don't want to say any more because the rest would be spoilers. But the thing that I think is kind of phenomenal about this book is I could summarise the plot, spoilers included, start to finish, in probably about 3 or 4 sentences. It's this long. It's a chunky book. But I was gripped. From page to page. It was so well written. It was so compelling. Right up until the final page, it had me in a chokehold. It was so good. I had an absolutely fantastic time with this, and I can't wait to read more from Sarah Waters. I have Tipping the Velvet on audio, I think. And I'm really keen to try Fingersmith because I've heard only good things about that. So I'm really pleased that I have resolved the matter of being a terrible Welsh literature reader by now having read some Sarah Waters, and I'm pleased to say that I absolutely loved it. So this weekend I'm just going to read from my pile of books that I put aside for Dewithon. and I have at the top a couple that I'm most keen to get to. The first is Random Deaths and Custard. I don't remember what this is about. If I get to it, I'll tell you more about it, but I remember it being described as funny, so I'm quite keen to kind of give this a go. The next is The Vampire Upstairs. This is by Marcus Wooley. This is a novella or short story. And the other that I'm hoping to get to this weekend is The Bad Doctor by Ian Williams. This is a graphic novel. I think it's about his anxiety or OCD, perhaps. Yeah, so those are the ones that I'm most keen to get to this weekend. During this vlog, I will also make sure to let you know about the other books that I've got on my reading list for Dewithon on my TBR, and also the other books that I have read already this month. But for now, I think I'm going to start with The Vampire Upstairs.
But I'll never find this anywhere else.
This is not good.
Into all those places on the wall, and none come close to this, I'm sure. You try to say.
I'm a little bit concerned to read that the author Marcus Wooley is currently teaching English in Taiwan, because his grasp of the English language is not great. She's just rushing around to tidy up her room, and it says, so she shoves her clothes in the wardrobe, including the spotted white bra that is dangling from the wardrobe door, and makes her unkempt bed, putting the strewn of books into the drawer. Strewn is a past participle of a verb, not a noun. Goes on to say, with a little wiggle, the door finally opens. Before she stands Owen. I think you mean before her stands Owen. Yeah, it's just lots of that. This is self-published and it shows. She didn't know what is going to happen this weekend now. How is that a sentence? There's too many tenses. Okay, I have finished The Vampire Upstairs by Marcus Wooley. This was terrible. Don't read this. I'm not even sure that this was reread after the first draft, let alone proofread or edited. I persevered hoping that the story might still be quite fun, despite the spelling mistakes and made up words. So at one point she's handed a cup of coffee in a polystyrene cup. He clearly didn't know that word, and instead of looking it up, just made one up that sounded similar. Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. Okay, so if you have come to this video looking for good Welsh fiction, don't read this one. Let's find something else instead. Brennan and I have popped out on a little mission. My gran had a fall this week and she's got a big black eye. She's fine, but she's a bit bruised and battered. So we're popping in there this afternoon to cheer her up. Got some flowers and some cake to take with us. But I don't need any of that. In fact, I don't even need to go so long as she gets to see Brennan. Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, so that's the plan, and then I'll be back home for some more reading a bit later on. Yeah, so that's the plan. That was why I wanted to tell you about the Sarah Waters, because I'm going to lend that to her. I think she'll really enjoy it. And I am also incidentally returning her copy of Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. This is one, it's huge, it's such a tome. This is one that she's been trying to get me to read for such a long time, and I caved and I read it in February. But Ken Follett is also a Welsh author, and it was very, very good. It's about a medieval monk who has this ambition to build a cathedral in his parish. I can't remember what you call it. If you'd have described a book to me in that way, I'd be like, not for me. But it was so good. There's lots of like plot, and there's lots of like really great characters that you love to love and characters that you love to hate. There's really, really strong villains in this, and he keeps getting foiled in his plans to build this cathedral. It's a real kind of gripping saga. I actually really enjoyed it. So she was right. She was right to recommend Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Hello, I am back from Cardiff and visiting my gran. She has a corker of a black eye, really nasty, but otherwise she's fine, and was obviously very pleased to see the dog. So she hadn't seen my text about going to visit, so she wasn't expecting us. And normally she's got like treats out ready for when we arrive, and Brennan has a routine where he basically like barges straight into the house and runs straight in and goes straight to the treats. Obviously she wasn't prepared, and she only had a packet of dog treats, and so had to go into the freezer and took out a whole sausage roll and defrosted that for him. That's that's what we're dealing with here. Anyway, that's that done. I'm home now and I'm about to start reading something else. So the next book I'm going to pick up is Random Deaths and Custard by Catrin Dafydd. This is meant to be funny, I think. It says that Sam Jones is a perfectly ordinary Wet Valleys girl, except for the random deaths, that is. Random deaths that she only just manages to avoid. She has plenty of other crosses to bear: the custard factory where she works, Nana's farting, and Auntie Peg swearing, her mum's boyfriend, her squaddy brother, not to mention the posh Welshies at the end of the road. With its comic darkness, its write-as-she-speaks style, and its recognition of how the ordinary and eccentric are two sides of the same coin, this is a novel that will have you laughing and crying into your custard. So, I think she kind of has visions of potential deaths of hers. Yeah, looking forward to giving this a go. But whilst we're on the subject of humour and funny books, I thought I would tell you about the Eyre affair, which I also read this month. Jasper Fforde, I don't think is a Welsh author, but he lives in Wales and has done for many years, and a lot of his books have lots of Welsh references and nods to Wales. So I'm including it in my Dewithon chat. So the Eyre affair is the first in the Thursday Next series. This is set in a world that's kind of alternative. This book is a bit of a kind of like mystery farce. So Thursday Next is the name of the main character, and she works for a special branch of the sort of equivalent of the police. They have like different levels of special operatives, and she is like bottom rung special operative, and her department, so all of the different, there's like, I don't know, special ops 1 through to 28 or something like that, and the lower the number, the kind of like more important and more mysterious the department, and she is right at the bottom of the rung, and she's part of a team who investigate crimes against literature. So it's possible to change books, which change things in literature, which changes like the course of the book somehow. Basically, Jane Eyre gets kidnapped in this, and she has to investigate. Yeah, so a big kind of villain kidnaps a book which includes Jane Eyre, and he's got some technology which means that he can jump in and out of the book, and he kidnaps her as a character out of it, which changes obviously all of the courses of the Jane Eyres ever. Yeah, it was fun. So I started buddy reading this with Charlie of Charlie Brooke Reads, and Charlie didn't get on with it. She called it the snooze affair. There were problems with it. I didn't love it. So just to counterbalance that, Sophie at Redhead Reading and one of my really good friends, Rianne, this is her favourite series of all time, and Sophie really loves these books too. So yeah, there's a bit of balance for you. I fell somewhere smack in the middle, I think. I felt that there were some things in here that were a bit dated. There was some really unnecessary fat phobia, and yeah, that was kind of annoying. The pacing was a little bit off. Things kind of dawdled, and then, you know, lots of action would happen and then things would slow down and dawdle again. But I guess I'm holding in mind the fact that this is the first book in a series. But it is farcical, it is a bit silly. There are, like, lots of the characters have quite silly names. There's somebody called Millen de Floss, as in Mill on the Floss. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And there's a real kind of like love of literature that runs through here, and loads of Welsh references. So if that sounds like a good time for you, then this might be one to pick up. So yeah, that's where we're at. I am about to dive into Random Deaths and Custard, and we'll see. God, it can't be any worse. Honestly, I think that book that I read earlier might be the worst book I've ever read in my life. I was thinking about that earlier. I think it might be the very worst book I have ever read. So yeah, this literally can't be any worse.
Sunrise the same. Tell me, have you ever danced in the rain? And I could try to.
I am just about halfway through Random Deaths and Custard by Catrin Dafydd, and I'm pleased to report that I'm having a really nice time with this. So the main character, Sam, she's 18, she lives at home with her mum and her nana, and she keeps having like near misses, like near-death experiences. But that's really not what this book is about. It's more about her life and her quite naive view on the world. It's written in first person narrative, and it's a bit kind of stream of consciousness, and I don't normally like that, but I'm finding this okay. It's written in Welsh Valleys vernacular, so that wouldn't be for everybody, but if you've got a good Welsh accent in your good Valleys accent in your mind's ear, if that's a thing, then I think this could really work. It's not one that I would recommend to everybody for that reason, but yes, if you can imagine this voice of Sam's in a good Welsh accent, then it really brings her to life. It's got such a strong and distinctive character voice. I think that's what I'm really loving about it. So success so far. I am heading into town shortly to meet some friends for brunch, and there's a market on in town, so I will have a little bit of a mooch around there, and that's basically plans for today. Back to reading a bit later.
But I'll never find this anywhere else.
Sky's just gone a really pretty colour outside. I've just tried to take a bit of video to show you, but I'm not sure it's done it justice, but it's light's just taken on a really weird quality. It's nice. Okay, I'm still going with Random Deaths and Custard. I'm perhaps 3/4 of the way through now. I just wanted to say, yeah, while it was in my mind, so this book was promoted as being funny. That was kind of why I picked it up. Does it say, was it recommended to me because it was funny, or does it say that it's funny? I think it talks about like dark humour. Yeah, this novel will have you laughing and crying into your custard. And it has, I was trying to think, like, is it funny? Am I going to say, yes, I'm finding it funny? And it definitely has made me laugh. It has made me laugh out loud in a few places, but I'm not sure that I can say it's a funny book, because there's also an awful lot of melancholy in there. It's kind of tragic in lots of ways, and as I said, you've got this kind of like through thread of her having these near misses, these kind of like near-death experiences that are making life feel quite sharp for her, and making her see things in a different way. But actually that's not what the story is about. The story is about what she's going through personally and her family and those dynamics. And it is funny, but it's also really sad and really tragic. And there's been the most horrendous scene just now, which was pretty disturbing in lots of ways. And yet I still ended the chapter having a giggle. And that heady mix of humour and melancholy is making this very much a Carey book. I'm enjoying it a lot. So yeah, that's where I'm up to. I am about to make some dinner, some Sunday dinner. And so I think I'll probably put this down now for the evening. I may get another chapter in as I'm cooking, because I've already made I took some cauliflower cheese out of the freezer because I already made that the last time I did a roast. Thank you, Pastor Kerry. So yeah, not so much to do, but so I might get another chapter in, but I certainly won't be finishing it tonight. I will finish it tomorrow and let you know my thoughts when we get there.
And I could try to just follow the sweat, but I'll never find this anywhere else. I'll never find.
Just back from walking the dogs, and then I'm heading out to get a tyre replaced. Oh, is there anything more tedious than spending huge amounts of money on car tyres? But I thought I would give you a couple more books that I have read during Dewithon. One is Don't Let It Break You, Honey by Jenny Evans. I read this, I'm doing that thing again. I read this because it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction this year, not realising when I picked it up or started listening to it that Jenny Evans is from Abergavenny, just up the road from me. So Jenny Evans is a Welsh author. This is about her experience of sexual violence and the subsequent mistreatment at the hands of the police and the reporters that covered the case, because the perpetrator is a famous person. She doesn't disclose who that is. So this isn't sensationalist. It's her experience of that and kind of the continued abuses at the hands of the system that she experienced, and it's excellent, really, really, really good. So I'd recommend Don't Let It Break You, Honey by Jenny Evans. The other book that I read that's been on my shelves for a little while is A 5-Year Sentence by Bernice Rubens, another Welsh author. So I picked this up because I thought the premise sounded a bit like A Man Called Uva. It's about a woman Miss Hawkins, who's about to retire after a long-standing career in a sweet factory, and she's planning to go home and take her life because once she's finished working, she doesn't see much purpose in life. But at her kind of like retirement celebration in work, when they're saying their fond farewells, they give her a gift of a 5-year diary. And so she takes that to be a kind of instruction that she has to then complete the entries of this 5-year diary. And yeah, it's about her, like what that means. But it wasn't like A Man Called Uva. Talking of like a heady mix of humour and kind of like tragedy, that's definitely contained in this book. It's definitely humorous, also really quite sad. So it's difficult to talk about without kind of spoiling anything. But she basically she uses the diary to kind of give herself instructions of what to do each day, so that once it's written in the diary, then that's what she has to do, as if she was recording what she did, but she's doing it beforehand, if that makes sense. So, and she kind of like gets bolder and bolder, and that leads her to an encounter that kind of changes everything. Yeah, it was a fascinating read. Really dug into loneliness and the price people will pay for connection. It was very, very, very good, but not the kind of light-hearted read and hopeful read of A Man Called Uva. but very good nonetheless. So that's another couple of books that I've been reading for Dewithon. I'm off to get my tyre changed, and then hopefully I've got just a couple of chapters left of Random Deaths and Custard, and then we'll be done. I finished Random Deaths and Custard by Catrin Dafydd and thought this was great. I thought it was really, really excellent. It reminded me of a kind of mix of In Defence of the Act, which was longlisted by, I can't remember who the author is. It was longlisted for the Women's Prize last year or the year before. And One Moonlit Night by Caradog Evans. Is it Caradog Evans? Anyway, a mix of those. Yeah, it starts off kind of like wedge heavy on the humour, light on the tragedy, and then throughout the book that slowly kind of like switches and you get a bit less of the humour and a bit more of the tragedy, but all the way through you get this kind of like mix of both. And it was just this really lovely light touch. This main character is 18 years old, so she's an adult, but she's really quite naive, and she was just, it was just such a pleasure to spend time in her head. This isn't a book that I would recommend widely for reasons that I've already said. You would need to have a pretty solid, it's Welsh accent kind of vernacular all the way through, and you'd have to have a pretty decent Welsh accent in your mind to be able to kind of like enjoy it. But also I will just say I would not recommend it to cat lovers, and we'll say no more. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it like really widely, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I'm really pleased to have read it. So that's our reading done. I thought I would just spend the rest of this video just letting you know about the other books I've got on my TBR, in case you're looking for more Welsh reads, and it'd be interesting to hear if you've read any of these. So that's what we've got left to do. Okay, to finish up, I wanted to share with you some of the books that I have left on my TBR, all from fabulous Welsh authors. First up is Unspeakable Beauty by Georgia Carys Williams. I'm actually really up for getting to this quite soon. It's about somebody who grows up wanting to be a ballet dancer. For those of you who've watched vlogs of mine before, my siblings are both ballet dancers, so I've got a kind of vested interest in that kind of like storyline. And it's about Violet growing up, aspiring in that industry, and then also getting wrapped up in an affair with an older man. So I'm really keen to kind of like get to this fairly soon, because I think it sounds wonderful. Next up, we've got Four Dervishes by Hammad Rind. I need to read you the blurb for this because I think it sounds great and I won't do it justice. One monsoon night, a power cut forces a man full of disappointments onto the streets of the town. Sheltering in a cemetery, he comes across four others: a gravedigger, an aristocrat, an honourable criminal, and a messiah, each with a past and with a story to tell. Crimes have been committed, dark family secrets revealed, fortunes rise and fall. The varieties of love are explored, and new selves are discovered in a rich round of storytelling. And as the disappointed man discovers, a new story is about to begin. I think that sounds really exciting. I also have Time Again by Carolyn Lewis. This is about an older protagonist who is still working. I think she's in her 70s, and her family are kind of like trying to urge her to move on, but she's wrestling with the dilemma about whether she should retire or whether she wants to hang on and still feel kind of like legitimate, and whether she wants to keep working and that kind of thing. So I think it's about family dynamics and also about kind of like age and status and all that good stuff. I also have The Welshman by Dave Lewis, and having got through the Vampire Upstairs, I'm now a bit nervous about this because I think this is also self-pubbed. Not that there's anything wrong with self-publishing, but I guess The Vampire Upstairs shows the kind of like potential things that can go wrong with that people just don't proofread their work. So this is a thriller about somebody who, he's a hard man with a troubled past. He fell for the wrong girl, and then an accident leads him running for his life from a vicious London crime boss. So that's a kind of like thriller. I've got Wonderboy by Jaime Morrison. I've talked about this as a potential option for one of the TBR Reading Spa books. This is written by, This has got like dog nose swipes on the back of it. I don't know how that's happened. So Jaime Morrison is the drummer from the Stereophonics, and I think this is about somebody kind of like living a kind of aspirational lifestyle and then being a bit disillusioned with that. So it's about somebody in a pop band. I don't think I think it is fictional, but obviously based on Jamie's real life, I suspect. Yeah, so that's about somebody kind of like searching for meaning after fame. I have Welsh Food Stories by Carwyn Graves. This was recommended to me by Sophie at Redhead Reading. She often joins in with Dewithon, and I'm sure she's got videos up that you can watch if you are interested. So yeah, this sounds really lovely and very wholesome. Non-fiction book all about Welsh food. My mum got me for Christmas Welsh Witchcraft, wow, say that fast, by Mhara Starling. This does what it says on the tin. It's a non-fiction book again about Welsh witchcraft. And last but not least is the book that I mentioned at the very start of this vlog that I hadn't got to, and that's a graphic novel called The Bad Doctor by Ian Williams. I think this is about Ian's experience of being a GP and all of the kind of like humanity that is involved in that, in kind of like making difficult decisions, yeah, kind of like trying to do that as both a professional and as a human being. I'm sure that I picked up that I'm sure that I read that this was about his OCD somewhere, but that doesn't seem to be in the blurb. So either I have invented that, or that just is written in the blurb and I found that out through wherever I picked this up from in the first place. But I think this sounds really great, and I'm keen to get to this fairly soon anyway. So you may hear more about what I think of this sooner than later anyway. So there we have it. Those are the Welsh books left on my TBR. I read about 18%. I might be overestimating that. Maybe 15%, somewhere around there, of my reading last year was all books by Welsh authors, and I'd love to maintain that. We're not too far away from Wales Book of the Year shortlist being announced. They don't do a long list, they just announce their shortlist, so that'll be coming up soon, and I will be reading all of the English language fiction books that are shortlisted, and I'll make sure to take you with me as I do that too. Let me know if you've read any books for Dewithon this year. Let me know if you have a favourite Welsh author. I'd love to know that in the comments, and I'm always looking for recommendations that fit the Dewithon vibe. That is to read books set in Wales, books by Welsh authors, books by Welsh publishers, books that capture the Welsh essence, whatever it may be. Let me know if you've got any recommendations in the comments. I hope that you are looking after yourself, and I will see you again in another video.